Sure what song I was humming. I thought it was a Christmas song. I'm like, wait, no, that's a lullaby or
It's a lullaby. I don't need help taking a nap, Joe. Always down to nap.
All right, we're live.
Super. All right. Welcome to our limited edition team of OpenJS Foundation Standards Working Group members. The TC39 is having a plenary this week, so we're a smaller group than normal. But we will take through some issues in any case. We start, as always, with announcements. There is certainly quite a bit of fun stuff happening. I don't know, I usually excitedly share announcements, but would anybody else like to excitedly share announcements?
TC53 proposed standard is going to be wrapping up in the next month or so. And then headed for a vote, I think, in June. So
wow, that's so cool.
And I know I've been reaching out to JavaScripters who do embedded stuff, try to get them to come and give it a look, give us some input. And I've gotten some help, but not a ton. I wonder if there's anyone, and it's unfortunate that everyone's at TC39 today, because I wonder if we could reach out to them and say, hey, could some of y'all take a look at this?
Well, I sure hope Peter also makes that call during the meeting, but you remind me that we should reach out to the JavaScript folks. If we
I did.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I did, and they said they would take a look. I haven't heard back from them though.
Okay, cool. Definitely. And then I assume also you poked Nick and team at Node-RED. Yeah. So
yes, I did. Yeah.
Is Cylon, or is that group still around?
I think they're just doing all Rust stuff now. I don't think, I mean, it's still up there, but they haven't updated it in years. So.
Okay.
If you want to share a link, Donovan, I can reping Nick and the Node-RED channel internally and share it a little bit internally if that's helpful.
Okay, yeah. I'll get to see you here in chat. Just one sec.
Feel free to use our Slack channels as well. Yep. Twitter might be too broad, but we're happy to tweet, or if you want to post a short blog for more context. But yeah, feel free to use any of our OpenJS channels.
Okay, we'll do.
That's exciting. I was really hoping that I would still be around for that, but that's cool.
I'm sure you're welcome if you have spare time.
I just want to poke back in.
Technically, you're still around, Lori.
I'm still, technically I am still here. Cool. I mean, one of the other standards related kind of announcements, our colleague Brian Cardell has written up a great blog post to help those who may not be familiar with sometimes arcane voting processes within some of our institutions, like the W3C. Has written a wonderful post about that on his blog, and you are encouraged to check that out if you've ever been interested or confused by ranked choice voting and similar things. That's a great post. Other standards specific news, I think the TAG is having a meeting this week, but that hasn't concluded.
I'd sure love to see some standards content submitted in call for speaking submissions for OpenJS World. The CFP is open through mid-February, so you'll find that on our homepage at our website to navigate there. But I think there's a lot of interest in standards. It'd be great to.
Oh, so definitely TC53 should submit something on the spec in June, since that's coming up for a vote in June. That's a good one.
Yeah. We nominated and support Leah Veru for the tag. Has she really been involved in JavaScript stuff or OpenJS?
No, but I sent an introductory.
Can we nudge her that it would be a friendly gesture to. you know, to have some involvement with us, or at least show up at one of these meetings and talk about what the tag might be doing that's of interest to the JavaScript community.
Yes. Once she was elected, I just sent her an introductory email to all of us at the foundation who would love to work with her, blog occasionally on giving us updates on what's happening with TAG. And as well as, you know, we're supporting her with her travel funding when we're able to travel. So made sure she was connected there as well. But she'd be a great speaker as well at the conference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like Joe has stepped away. I don't know, Robin, if you're able to promote Brian or not.
I am not a co-host anymore.
Okay, neither am I. Sorry, Brian, hang tight. When Joe gets back, we'll get you promoted. Yeah, no kidding. It is one of those days. So great idea. We should definitely have her, Leah, come to some of these meetings, but also, you know, she'd be great to have speak to at the conference. Conference is on the 9th of June, 2021, and we are accepting our call for speakers right now is open through, I think, February the 9th, and then we'll be reviewing those. So we really hope to have a lot of input from projects and communities like you. So please do submit and sign up. Of course, it's going to be remote, and one day you'll be able to kind of watch content after it premieres on demand. So we're kind of really going to have fun with this format, I think. All right, I think that's it for announcements. Yep. All right. So let's move on to our agenda for today. First agenda item is number 114, which is strategic planning and goal setting. One of the biggest takeaway or action items that we have is for Robin and myself to do a tour, so to speak, of the TSCs and gather feedback from them on our 6-ish strategic ideas. We have also added a whole bunch of other things that we want to learn from the TSCs as we've kind of, found more things that we want to talk to them about. And so that is something that we want to focus first on, the impact and growth projects, and then move on down through some of the at-large projects. So we're still needing to get most of these scheduled, but hopefully we'll get those done pretty quick, and we'll be able to report back some info. I don't know if there's any other info we really have yet on that. If anybody's speaking, they're muted. But I'm curious just to know really quick if anybody has given further thought or consideration to, hey, Joe.
Yes, hello.
Can you please promote Brian?
So sorry. I had a dog incident that I had to run off and take care of.
Thank you.
There we go. You're welcome.
So Brian, now that you're joined, yeah, hi, let's say hello. Do you have any announcements or anything you want to share?
Talked about your blog.
Yeah, we talked about your blog.
No, I don't have anything.
Okay.
I was listening to the conversation about Leah, and I agree. That sounds like a good idea. I think Robin was saying that she sent her something already. Seems great. So she won't be there. There's a delay. I think this is the first face-to-face meeting where they're doing handoff. Sorry about that. Sorry. Yeah, so she's just kind of getting started. So even though the election already happened, it's like a delay to actually really be on the tag. So
well, the new members are invited to the first meeting, so presumably she's attending, or?
I'm saying that's just happening now,
Today.
like
Oh,
literally,
oh, yeah.
literally right now. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think like yesterday was the first day or something.
yeah. So you were asking about sort of follow-ups on the strategy meeting we had, what, 6 weeks or so ago?
That's right.
And you've got the, so I can't remember if this was one of the 6 questions you were going to follow up with, but the more I think about it, the more I like the idea of trying to bootstrap something along the lines of a technical, coordination review, architecture, whatever you want to call it, group. I know that came up on the call. I just wonder, is that on the list of things to ask about, or was that kind of too ambitious?
I think that seems very related to an adjacent strategy that we kind of articulated around doing higher level review of project tech stack and seeing,
Okay. But just documenting what technologies people use. I mean, just documenting the dependencies to make sure we know what our open source developers actually pay attention to, care about, besides obviously JavaScript itself. But it'd certainly be interesting to know what the dependencies are, and try to, like we talked about on the call, rationalize them in terms of, hey, that's that sort of 10-year-old state of the art. Everybody else is, or the mainstream is using library X. I mean, that might be just documenting it might be an interesting first step. Somebody talked about just kind of spending time poking around in their GitHubs to see what they actually do.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wondered where that idea stood, because really growing on me is something that the foundation could put energy into, that in a way that the individual projects are not likely to have whatever the incentive.
Joe and I just talked about, we have every other week from our CPC meetings, we're doing deep dive sessions. Today we did one on diversity and inclusion, but we're talking about doing one on technical strategy and defining that from the CPC. So I think Joe, don't you think it makes sense to kind of wrap that into it? Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense to me for sure.
Yeah. I wonder if this is something that we could fund out of unused travel fund budget, for example. Like we talked about the outreachy internship program on a working group call earlier. We could perhaps, because it's really data gathering, right, as an exercise here, and it's going to take time, dedicated time, to pull all that info. It seems like the kind of thing that doing a grant or, to kind of to get the lift and get the work done might be useful.
Yeah, I like that idea. I mean, I notice, a lot of people sort of join the Slack channel and introduce themselves and say they'd like to get involved. I mean, obviously we don't know what level of skill some of these people are, but having a positive thing to say, here's a sort of a meta project that, I mean, some of this just kind of documenting the dependencies is not, you don't need a PhD in computer science to do that kind of stuff.
Right.
But it would help people, would be a way, I think it would be a positive way to get people engaged in the community and figure out what, they really have to contribute. And anyway.
I love that idea.
Prove themselves, giving them some sort of stipend or contract or whatever to, you know, take it another layer, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, I think we'd need to put like a project proposal together so that whomever could kind of understand like what we're looking for, what the outcome and goals would be, and then probably go from there. That seems like an easy way to potentially action that and either get, you know, just an interested person from the community, or perhaps, you know, pay someone to execute that. It seems like a
I could see it either as a way of, you know, helping socialize new people into the community, or somebody who is, you know, well known to be highly skilled but finds themselves between jobs or something. You know, I could anyway. See, anyway, I think that idea is worth kind of fleshing out and pursuing and seeing if we can do anything with it.
Agreed.
Just recorded that as an action then. Any other thoughts around the 2021 strategic planning and goal setting conversations? Go ahead.
So we had sent out that survey. I think we got 5 total responses from projects. Does that sound right?
I haven't looked recently.
I'm wondering if we want to pursue actively more responses still, or if we want to take it as read that participation is reflective of the larger.
Did we send out, because I think this actually happened before the holidays and I don't remember 2020 as decided not to remember 2020.
Right. It is still 2020 in a way. It still feels like it's like March the 845th or something.
Did we send out reminders to survey reminders?
I don't think that we did.
Last
No.
call saying we're going to call this done on whatever February X. If you have something to say, we'd really appreciate it. Anyway,
I think we should send out 1 or 2 more reminders, and yeah, as Michael says,
maybe we combine it with the and we're coming out to meet with the TSC near you. Yeah.
I think that was one of the things that we had said, is that we're doing some like actual going and talking to people, and that would be a good time to like just bring it up. Like in either case, like A, thank you for your response if you responded. And B, can you respond or try to respond if you haven't?
But
you might miss this at the, go ahead.
Using a questionnaire to structure the conversations with the individual projects wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah. We have a deck drafted for our roadshow. I still think when we do the TSC roadshow for the impact and growth, 50% of that meeting will be on the standards content. Michael Dawson, who's our board rep who represents the projects, is going to come along as well. And then we're just going to hit probably a couple of other key areas as well. But we're in the process of going out and scheduling those now. So maybe we should take a revisit on the deck. Maybe if we have the survey feeding in right before meetings too, gives them a little unofficial deadline in their head, maybe. Tie it all together. Good.
Good reminder, Brian. I really had spaced on the on the survey piece of it. So
I think it's actually really interesting because the responses that we've gotten so far, the one question that I was really personally keenly very interested in about, like, do you imagine we're doing about good, or we should do a lot better? And then like, should we be trying to see if we can build consensus and like speak with some kind of similar voice for OpenJS on some things? Like, should we actively try to do that? Like we have not in the past, but it seemed like the responses were actually so far pro that. And given that it's a small sample size so far, I don't know what to make of that.
Well, so if we've had 5 responses, one thing to bear in mind is that we have 32 projects that are really super, you know, current, not even super current, that are like that are not emeritus projects, right? So I would just sort of understand that that's a decent percentage of projects that are likely very active. And I don't, because I don't recall who has responded, but you know, if we think about it, we have 6 impact projects and 6 growth projects. So that's like almost 50% of the most active projects. So, you know, we have a small audience for this survey.
Right.
But I am sure we can get more with just a few gentle, you know, gentle nudges. Right. Okay.
Just
So
one more thought on that. I wonder if, like, giving some for instances, like the you know, the TC39 agenda that was shared earlier today. Just say, you know, are you excited about any of these, you know, early stage features? In you know, would your project really benefit from, you know, some of those? Anyway, just maybe making it a little more concrete of the kinds of things the foundation collectively could potentially get behind, either at TC39, TC53, WhatWeG, wherever.
that's a good idea as well. Perhaps in the standards working group Slack channel, before we send that email nudge out, I'll share some just draft language, and then we can add some of those for instances just to frame it for folks.
That's good.
Yeah. Okay, moving us on to issue 106, which is Brian's issue, a home for reference implementation polyfills. Let me go open this up in my browser and refresh where we left off. So we had some discussion in the issue. Brian, what's the status, would you say, of kind of this idea?
I would say the status is just as you described. I need to go refresh my memory. Yeah, I have not advanced this in any way, so sorry about that.
Well, so what I seem to vaguely recall is that one reason that it has not like really advanced too much is we got, what's the word? Hung up perhaps on sort of like the 2021, like how this would fit into strategy for the next year. And it felt like that was one reason that we as a group didn't make too much progress, because it was like unclear if this was a direction we wanted to go. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, no, I think that also rings the bell to me, that we didn't know like if that was interesting or fit into what we should be prioritizing. Yeah, and I think that some things like the surveys and things we were hoping would help clarify whether those are valuable things.
Do we want to take any action on this or take further discussion on this right now, or should we table it until later in February after we've had more of our conversations?
Yeah, I think we should. Yeah, I mean, I hate to just close it because I think that there's potentially some there as it keeps coming up in various ways, and the willingness that we heard in that TPAC breakout sounded really positive and interesting to me. I just don't know how to advance it yet right now, or even if we should be. So.
Yeah, I don't think we should close it. But from others in the group, it did seem like they were for it if it fits that strategy. And that's sort of the question. So that strategy question has to be, I think, answered before the team is going to move forward with Verve on this particular issue. So maybe we can add like a backlog label or something, just so we know that it's something we care about and we want to revisit, but I don't think we should close it.
That sounds good.
Okay, cool. So the last thing that I hoped to chat about today, which is also not on the agenda, but we talked about it briefly just at the start. Last 2 weeks ago, we had a great chat with David Rudin and Scott Newberry from the Joint Development Foundation. Good.
Seth Newberry.
Seth, geez, Scott. My apologies. Seth from Joint Development Foundation, and it was a really fascinating presentation. We got a lot of opportunities to ask them questions, and one of the things that we said we wanted to do was maybe spend some time reflecting on what we learned about that program and how or whether we want to move in a direction or encourage our projects to move in a direction. What can we do to help them, and if they want to perhaps go take advantage of JDF support and resources and that sort of thing. We identified one thing that was different about us than some of the other projects that the JDF works with, which is that the OpenJS Foundation is a project of lots of projects which are very different. And unlike some of the other groups they work with where there's sort of like a one-to-one, we're one-to-many, and how we might want to think about structuring a process that would allow a given project within our foundation to advance a spec. Do we want to reflect at all at this point on that conversation further, or sort of share any things that we continue to think about after that meeting?
Yeah, I've got a thought if you want.
Yeah, I do want. Yes, I want.
So David said something, it might have been an answer to a question of mine, I can't remember, but about, in general, the context is antitrust. Let me just say that, I'm getting more and more scared about, antitrust as a impediment to industry collaboration, because obviously, some of the big companies have gotten to some critical mass that is starting to really create political problems around the world. And what David said was that standards work is sort of intrinsically kind of thing that antitrust laws are concerned about, because they're competitors sitting down and collaborating with one another, and antitrust law gives standards making a pass because it meets various criteria like transparency and operating by a due process. So a lot of our projects, I get the impression, are kind of like basically glorified GitHubs that don't have a whole lot in the way of process, because that's how work gets done. But on the other hand, just raise the specter that once things start getting it all formal and getting it all taken seriously in industry, having the and I won't say the fig leaf, but the wrapper of a more formal standards process might save a lot of pain down the line. So we might want to nudge people to get more formal than they would normally be comfortable with, partly because the political/legal environment out there is getting scary about antitrust the way it was, say, about patents 20 years ago, when the standards organization started taking royalty-free patents much more seriously. So anyway, nothing concrete, just this is something we might want to nudge people to move faster than they really want to, because it will save a lot of pain down the line if their project gets dragged into some ugly political situation.
I think one thing that's probably true, I suppose it's true, is that most of our projects, of the 30 something that we have, are not going to ever get to a point where they, either from the open source project itself, or even in collaboration with another open source project, decide to make work on a standards track specification. I think that that's not going to be super common, and the more common thing might be that some group of individuals from across our JavaScript projects work together on an API or on a language feature, or on some such thing that they want to see advanced in the web platform, or I suppose not in the web platform, where maybe somewhere else too. And so I wonder how much we want to really impress more formal process on individual projects versus more formal process on cross-project activity, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it might be something to go back to David and Seth about. Yeah, I mean, I don't have any specific concerns in mind, specific projects in mind. It's just, they could, but any project it's really getting some industry traction that possibly steps on some toes out there, they're going to they might wish in a year or so, when the EU or the British or American government starts looking closely at them, that they had a more formal process in place. But obviously, I think it's just pure incubation, and it's a bunch of independent people. Yeah, they don't need to worry about it. But if you've got one of the, you've got a couple of the gorillas in the room, I mean, their lawyers will probably press them for process. But just helping people. I mean, I know from working at big companies that, yeah, people want to kind of fly under their lawyers' radar. But on the other hand, if they do stuff that gets too popular and steps on some toes out there, they could regret that. So I'm not saying anything more than, maybe some, best practices, fact type things that when is it time to take, formal process seriously.
Mhm.
Both for code and specs might be a work item we could work on over the next year.
I like that. I think one of the things you're making a super good point that it as a project is adopted and becomes, even as an open source project, sort of a de facto standard in a given tech stack, like having some more rigorous, I suppose, structure and also encouraging them to take more seriously like an evaluation of like who's using their project and that kind of thing, which I think a lot of our projects have historically said, well, we just are making this for us and we hope other people find it useful too. And we're not really worried too much about who else is using it.
I think you put your finger on it exactly. Once people start talking about your project or your library, whatever, as a de facto standard, you kind of, that's a big red flag that you need to start worrying about some government or some, I mean, Brian knows, how this is going in W3C, where the advertising community is trying to attack Google. I won't say they don't necessarily deserve it, but when things start getting treated as de facto standards or the code equivalent, whatever, the thing that everybody uses without thinking about it very hard, then you got to worry about making sure that you're covered if some hostile lawyers notice you.
I also feel like maybe our projects, the perception of standards have not kept up with reality, right? On the more agile ways of approaching it through the community spec program or other agile community processes at standard setting organizations. So probably our responsibility to help them along there too.
That's a very good point because, anybody who's been around for 20 years or so probably has a horrible thought about what standards means, but it's not so bad anymore. It's not so bad anymore, and a lot of the. But anyway,
I want to mention this for anybody who doesn't see in the chat, but recently was recommended to read The Master Switch by Tim Wu, and it touches on some of these things in like interesting ways. So just pass on that recommendation. It's a really good treatment of a lot of these questions.
Master Switch, okay. That's cool. All right. So I think these are good kind of points that have been raised in response to that presentation. Exactly how or whether even we collaborate with the JDF from OpenJS Foundation, I think does depend significantly on which strategic direction we choose to invest in the next year. I could see the polyfills, home for polyfills issue being something that would allow us to do that, for example, if we wanted to go that route, but perhaps another strategic direction would take us someplace else. I think the last thing was, that they had asked was if we had any further questions or feedback from our communities to get back with them. And so let me just put that out there and encourage those who may be watching this now to go back and check out the recording from 2 weeks ago to refresh yourself.
Jory, it might be good if you can include a little blurb about them and then your newsletter as well to the community.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Thanks.
Other comments or anything, news, agenda items for last 10 minutes at the top of the hour. So, and we're out of actual agenda items. So, okay. All right.
I think so.
Then I think we can gavel this meeting to a close. There's a formal process. All in favor of concluding the meeting, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The motion passes. I used to do like Parley Pro competitions in high school with my FFA group, Future Farmers of America. So we would go and see who could run more effective meetings based on.
Wait, Jory, where did you grow up?
Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you would it's very formal. You had this whole thing, study the Robert's Rules of Order book, which I think was originally published in 1930. And people still use that today. So
Interesting.
Anyway.
Well, it seems to have worked because you run a very good meeting.
Sometimes
Indeed.
I remember that.
Jory has skills.
I used to have somebody, Wilto made me a little gavel a long time ago, but it got broken, and that makes me sad.
I can imagine that.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
We should get him to make you another one. That would be great.
I'd like to
We don't
ask
even
him.
have a gavel emoji, do we?
Do we have a gavel emoji?
Yeah, there's a gavel emoji. I'm
There's
pretty
gotta
sure.
be.
Joe, you could probably stop streaming or whoever.
Oh,
I know this is fun.
there is no gavel emoji in Slack.
There's a hammer. It's almost as
No.
good.